The question I ask all of you right now is how many ounces of gold and how many ounces of silver do you have? I don't care about anything else. Just look at what they're doing today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Today, they're printing so much money because this mountain of debt is so high. If they stop printing money, it crashes. In 1913, the Fed is the third central bank America has had because every president has warned against central banks like the Bank of England. And the Fed is not federal, it has no reserves, and it's not a bank. It's a cartel of banks. And in 1913, the Fed, the third one, was created after starting with President Washington, said do not have a central bank since 1776. Not only was the Fed created in 1913, so was the taxman. You know, the Beatles always saying about the taxman. Well, in 1913, the 16th Amendment was passed, which caused America to be taxed. And almost up to that point, till 1913, America was a tax-free nation. So what does that tell you? For money to exist, taxes had to exist. Hear me out. For money to exist, the dollar or the pound, taxes had to exist. So it was one of the biggest scams going. And that's why 1913 is so important. And then in 1944, as World War II was winding down, the world agreed to make the U.S. dollar the reserve currency of the world, which it is today, if America promised to keep it backed by gold. So in 1944, the United States says, we promise we'll back it by gold. And then in 1971, President Nixon says, oops, we broke our promise. And that allowed money printing to go out of control. So here we are today. I have this. I just got this. It just came in. It's The Economist from London. And it says here, this month, it says, governments have spent $17 trillion on the pandemic, including loans and guarantees, for a combined total of 16% of the global GDP. That's how much money was printed last year. 16% of the global GDP. Now, if that doesn't cause you to run out and buy gold and silver, I don't know what will. You know, they now have to keep printing or we crash. That's why I've been bullish on gold for all these years. Anything's possible. You know, you're far more complex than me. Look, I just know this. Exactly as I said, in 71, I was on my way over to Vietnam as a Marine helicopter pilot. And that's when I found out that Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. I didn't know what that meant. So I was flying off a carrier as a helicopter gunship pilot, and I decided to go look for gold. Because it was illegal for Americans to own gold. Most people don't know that. So they took it from you if you owned gold. That was in 1933 by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So I didn't know what gold was, so my co-pilot and I we had to fly behind enemy lines to find a gold mine. So we walk up to this gold mine. In the North Vietnamese army had already rolled south, so we snuck in behind of them. I walk up to this window to buy gold from a little tiny Vietnamese woman, and she had red teeth, could eat beetle nuts. And gold at that time was floating from 35 US to 50. So I thought because I was behind enemy lines, I could buy gold for a discount. Mistake. And she just laughed at us. You know, she says spot. She says spot. I said, what does spot mean? You know. And basically, that's the price of gold all over the world at that moment in time. And I went, holy mackerel. And that's when it kind of clicked on me that gold is God's money. You know, gold is an element placed here on Earth, the same as silver is. You know, I studied that in chemistry. I started thinking about this and said, why was I taking paper? You know, I mean, this little woman really clarified it. So the thing I say to people, it was at that moment, it was $50 an ounce from 35, and she would not budge. So finally, you know, and then the NVA almost shot us, so we had to get out of there. So we had to. I waited to get to Hong Kong, and I bought my first ounce of gold. It was a Krugerrand from South Africa. So it cost me about $50. So when I talk to people about gold, I say it's not how much or what's going to happen in the future. All I care about today is how many ounces do you have? How many ounces of gold and how many ounces of silver, and what was the price you bought it at? That's all I care about. Because in a few years, you're going to wish you had bought more. Do you know what I mean? To sit here and talk about the flies on the future and all this other stuff, to me, it's ridiculous. So when you look at this magazine, again, this is this month's issue of The Economist, very credible magazine. And last year they printed 16% of the GDP. The question I ask all of you right now is how many ounces of gold and how many ounces of silver do you have? I don't care about anything else. Just look at what they're doing today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Today, they're printing so much money because this mountain of debt is so high. If they stop printing money, it crashes. And when it crashes, because they find out the dollar, which is a reserve currency of the world, is worthless, you're going to wish you had more ounces of gold and silver. And personally, I'm very bullish on silver, just because it's still 50% from its all-time high. It was $50 when I bought it. Now it's $24. So it's how many ounces do you have today? That's all I count. This is the real thing. This is a Zimbabwe dollar. We've all seen these pieces of toilet paper. What is this? 10 billion. That's what this magazine is saying. Yeah. Economists. This is what they're doing. So I said, like people discuss the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, this, and this. I have traveled the world digging for gold and silver. I was in the Andes up at 14,000 feet. And like you said, it was 5,000. I don't know how many years the Incas were there. But I still remember standing in the Andes and seeing these lines going across the mountaintop. And I asked my geologist with me, I said, what is that? He says, 1,000 years ago, the Inca were tracking gold up a mountain. And I said, 1,000 years ago, the Inca, before the Spaniards, were digging for gold. And then I've been in Mongolia, same thing, a place called the Checkerboard, same thing. For thousands of years, humans have been digging for this gold. And this is before the internet and before telephone and before this. The Inca were digging for gold. The Chinese were digging for gold. The South Americans were digging for, you know what I mean? This is before the telephone and internet. So there's something, I hate to say it, spiritual about gold and silver. Humans know what real money is. And that's why I'll say it again. In 1933, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt, our president, made it illegal for Americans to own gold, the more I studied it, like you, I began to realize there's some kind of spiritual or special property to the power of gold and silver, which are real money. Yet most people, Andy, would rather have this. Say, hey, I'm going to give you $10 billion, and they get all excited. This is not even good toilet paper. But that's what the value systems are so off. So I'll say it again, I would stop discussing, if you don't have much money, run down and buy one silver something. Just buy something. Real silver, not the ETF, not the derivative, because that's all fake. Right, and the most important thing for people who are listening, if you're watching the silver market, you're watching the wrong market. The reason I bring this magazine in here is because what this article says here, this is who I'm watching. You watch who's spending the money. It's the government. And I'll say it again. Governments have spent $17 trillion on the pandemic alone, 16% of the world GDP. That's who I'm watching. I'm just watching as a whole macro. Do you know what I mean? What are you watching? I'm watching the government. I don't trust them. I never have. So, they're so incompetent. I just can't believe it. If you listen to Jim Rickards and I are good friends, and he is an insider into this whole system. And he talks about how incompetent the Fed is and the Bank of England. They're incompetent people. They're like Marx, highly educated people who don't know how to make money. They're not capitalists. They're socialists. And if you understand that, you'll buy more gold and silver today, not next year. Do you know what I mean? You just want as many as you can get now. How many ounces? Not what's the price.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.